Hey guys, Willie here with Outdoor Freaks. Today I want to talk about trail camera strategy. Some hunters, they just kind of hang their cameras, here and there with no real rhyme or reason, and I think that's a mistake. I think if you place your trail cameras in a fashion that gives you the most information as possible while educating the deer as little as possible, I think you'll have more success both in the deer stand and with the trail camera. On this particular farm, I'm going to have 4 trail cameras this fall. I'm going to have one on this finger, one in this corner. I'm going to have one on this southwest side of this field, and then I'm going to have one on the northeast side of this field. These 2 cameras here are going to be in time-lapse mode. They're going to be reconix cameras, and they will be taking pictures every 5 minutes, both the first 2 hours of light and the last 2 hours of light. The benefits of having the reconix camera and do the time-lapse is that it will also trigger if an animal walks in front of it during the time-lapse session. Other manufacturers, if it's in time-lapse mode, it won't use the trigger at all, which I think is kind of a bummer. That's one feature of the reconix that I think is very nice. These 2 cameras over here, they will be set up in a way that takes as many pictures as possible. Once it senses motion, they'll be taking pictures, boom, boom, boom. They'll just be firing them off. Benefits of that are, different angles of antlers for the bucks that cross. Obviously, if deer runs past it, a group of deer, I can get multiple images of, deer running past that are going fast. A buck trailing a doe, and God forbid a trespasser walks by. I can get multiple images, see if there's more than one trespasser. Maybe I get his face if he turns or something of that nature. But the more pictures, the merrier, in my opinion, with these trigger cameras. In this area right here, I don't expect there to be too much activity, but if a trespasser does come in, I expect they'll use this alley right here. I'll be able to get a picture of them. But the benefits of having a camera here is that I can get a little bit of information, but I'm not giving up anything because I'm not spooking deer and bumping deer and leaving a whole bunch of scent when I put the camera there. So it's a place I can drive right up to the camera. I can get out, wearing rubber boots, wearing gloves, and check it, get in, and get out of there quickly. And the same goes for this spot right here. I can drive right off this road, right up to the camera, check the camera, and get out of there. These spots here are places where deer aren't going to be staying. They don't come here to stay. They come in, they just kind of pass by, and so when I come in to check the camera, when I go to drop off the camera, I'm not going to be bumping any deer. These 2 spots here are a little more risky up near this field. There may or may not be deer. When I check these cameras, I'm going to try to check them, early afternoon, late morning. I'll be driving my vehicle up exactly right to where the camera is again, so I can leave as little scent as possible and, again, get in and out. The benefits of checking a camera with a tractor or an ATV or your vehicle is that it's more common occurrence for whitetails to encounter those kinds of things than it is a human walking in, to check a camera. Obviously, when you're walking in a check, you're also leaving scent and educating the deer, and also, wherever the wind's blowing during that time, that will also be just things that you'll leave behind for deer to smell, which obviously isn't good. Basically the whole premise of this strategy is that deer that know they're being hunted are tougher to kill than deer that aren't being hunted and just haven't been bugged as much by humans. So there's a couple tips. I'm sure as you see this, you kind of envision your hunting spot and where you can put cameras that are less intrusive, where you can get information that I'll be honest, I'd love to have cameras on these ridges here, and there's a great scrape right in here. I'd love to have cameras there, but it's just not beneficial enough. I don't gain more information. Only thing I have is, good hunting opportunities to lose by going in there all the time. So, I'm just going to leave those spots alone. I'll be hunting, in and around on the outside of these ridges, but I'm not going to go in there for the simple fact of just to get a good picture of a deer. The same deer that are on these ridges are going to be the same deer that are going to be using these fields, using this field here, or walking by this camera over here. So you know, there's just no benefit. You know, if I get a picture of a 10-pointer on this ridge, I'm no better off than if I get a picture of a 10-pointer, you know, up here by the road or up here by this field. The only thing I've done is I've tracked Sen in here and probably educated him some more. So again, there's just a couple tips there for trail camera strategy. Check us out, outdoorfreaks.net. Adios.